Hi everyone, welcome to Hidden in Plain Sight. This is number 1, and I actually believe a few other parts are with me too, because it's 1 a.m. and I'm suddenly dealing with a burst of energy and wanting to do stuff instead of lying down and go to sleep like I normally do. So I think I have got number 2 with me because number 2 loves to laugh. She's got so much energy. I think she is one of my parts that stores like most of my energy. And while I still love her, I'm finding that sometimes her energy isn't at the best time of day. Like now, having a random burst of energy at midnight and everything. Did a little bit of extra physical therapy just to get some of the energy out a little bit so that hopefully we can go to sleep soon and just because that part of me wants to move and do movement. And that's one of the ways I can do that. I'm making this video because I know it's been a while since we've posted a video. We actually have like probably 4 or 5 videos that different parts of us have recorded, but we haven't posted them because we haven't edited them. And so I just kind of wanted to throw it out there, throw the idea out there, including this one, because as much as I do actually enjoy video editing, I'm realizing with the frequent switching between parts and just the fact that we are still healing and getting into a routine of keeping up with just regular day-to-day tasks, we haven't really been able to devote time to video editing as much as we'd like. And I really would hate to not put any more videos out there just because we're recording them and then we're not finding time to edit them. The only problem is there's a huge risk of getting flagged by YouTube because if I speak words that they are not happy with, it could risk my videos getting taken down. And so I'm kind of debating whether or not to just throw unedited videos out there just to get them out there. It's gonna probably have lots of uhs and pauses and I don't know. It's just me though. So, I guess if you're interested in seeing unedited footage of my life, my emotions, my story, my different parts, and just who we are, then I guess continue to watch. Because we'll just try and throw out some unedited videos. We might wait on a few of them because I don't really know if it's the right time for them. And I think there's been a few times where we name dropped a little bit, which we're not opposed to doing. That's kind of why we aren't properly identifying ourselves. But I also know that Jesus desires us to speak when he wants us to speak. I think he has a time for when he wants my story to be more fully out there. And I think that's also why we haven't been doing a ton of videos or posting a lot of videos yet, is because there are parts of our story that it's not time for it to be exposed or released yet. It's out there within my private circle at the moment, and snippets are still being shared here and there, but for the most part, it's just not time for people to receive my story and what I've been through, and ultimately the truth that I know and have lived. So that is gonna kind of make things go slow with this process. And anyways, I just kind of wanted to give the channel an update there. Currently, a majority of the videos are unlisted, so they're not searchable on YouTube. We are praying about and thinking about listing things officially, and putting things out there. Again, we're not trying to become like some YouTube influencers with thousands of followers and all that stuff. That's not my intent here. This is meant to be like a video diary journal thing of my life, of my personal experiences with what I've been through, and with having DID and complex PTSD and a plethora of other fun titles if you really want them. So yeah, that's another thing actually. Even though there's a name for what I'm dealing with, I've been kind of realizing that a lot of mental illness titles that identify things such as DID and complex PTSD, and there's things like the autism. I was diagnosed with that. I was diagnosed with ADHD, and there's this new disorder going around now, like that is like super, I guess, popular all of a sudden, called rejection sensitivity syndrome or disorder. I don't remember if it's RSD or RSS, but either way, I've kind of been realizing all of my diagnoses are actually deeply rooted in trauma, and my trauma responses, my triggers, and things like that are all rooted in my trauma. And while I'm not saying that every single mental health issue is gonna be rooted in trauma, I do think a majority of them are. And I've been realizing that when you label a victim of trauma with something, it's kind of a form of gaslighting. Rejection sensitivity disorder is kind of saying, excuse me, I swear, every time I speak, how's that for unedited, right? So, rejection sensitivity disorder is basically saying that the person is, oh my goodness, literally, for the last hour, I swear, I've never had a sore or dry throat like I do when I start talking on these videos sometimes. Oh. I know, it's usually because I'm about to say something that most people don't want to hear. The spirit realm might not want me to explain it. But I'm determined to get it out there. So, rejection sensitivity disorder is saying that a person is sensitive to rejection. That's not that far off from when a narcissist tells their victim in a gaslighting and dismissive way, "You're too sensitive." So, I've kind of realized that a lot of these labels are literally just blaming the victims for what they're dealing with and saying, "That's your problem now. You're sensitive to rejection. That's your problem." What about the narcissistic or abusive person that traumatized the person to cause them to be sensitive to rejection? Maybe they were very, maybe they did have a soft heart, and that's part of why they're a victim, because, abusers love to prey on victims that have a soft heart that they can manipulate, and guilt and shame and all that stuff. And so maybe they were more sensitive to that because they don't desire to be a mean person, but there's gonna be a root cause to that sensitivity. It's not just oh, that's your problem now because you have a rejection sensitivity. So, yeah, I've just kind of been realizing that. Plus, as I've been healing, a lot of my symptoms related to all the different labels I've been given, like the autism and ADHD and all that stuff, a good chunk of that has actually been kind of like calming down and like mellowing out a little bit. Some of it, I think, is actually just part of my personality too, though. Like they'll talk about how ADHD has and autism will sometimes have like hyper focusing, and you're kind of like tunnel visioning and stuff. And I'm kind of realizing that pretty much everybody has that when they're deep in thought and deeply passionate and interested in something. Yeah, maybe autism and ADHD and potentially trauma undercurrents there could maybe heighten that and make it like last longer or something, but to be honest, I find I still just kind of do some of that stuff, and I also know people that are also having those tendencies and traits, and it just kind of seems like it's related to just having a passion. And which is going to lead me down another little tangent here, I guess, is I have this frustrating thing with labeling people with like a hyperfixation for passions and things that they're passionate about. And it's like a lot of people just don't have passion in general anymore. They don't really like feel fired up about stuff. So it's just so foreign and weird to have a passion and have fire about something that it's suddenly being led to be a disorder, like autism and stuff. And, as someone who has autistic tendencies and is well aware of all the different symptoms and challenges that have come with having those traits and stuff, I'm not bashing it in any way. I'm not trying to downplay it or I don't know, replace the label or anything like that. I'm just realizing that, at least within my own life, I mean, everyone else is welcome to their own opinion, especially as it relates to their own autistic diagnosis or tendencies, but I'm just kind of realizing in my own life that a majority of the labels I was given is kind of like self-blaming me for my struggles rooted in trauma, and perhaps some of the strange traits that I have that match with having autism is really just being in tune with my emotions and my passion and myself, hyper focusing on something that I'm really passionate about shouldn't be a weird alien-like trait. That should be something that we all kind of have. We should all have something we're passionate about, something we're on fire about. And we don't see that enough, Everyone's so just burnt out. They're so depressed. They're probably all pretty much medicated, which means your emotions are numb and your motivation is probably stomped out of you too. So it's just like, yeah, why does that have to be an autistic thing, Maybe it can just be a human thing where you're just passionate and on fire for what you love, and that's okay. And obviously that's only one aspect of autism and ADHD, so obviously I know there is other challenges. I mean, I still struggle with making and keeping friends and a lot of other things that people within the autistic and neurodivergent communities tend to struggle with. But so I'm not like trying to, I don't know, I'm not trying to be dismissive to those in my own community by any means. I'm actually in some ways trying to, I don't know, maybe free us from the shame and guilt of who we are, of, what we are in tune to, that is always being chalked up as autism and stuff like that. And maybe we need to be a little bit less clinging to labels and diagnoses, and maybe recognize that, yeah, maybe it's validating to kind of have like an idea of what's going on, because I do recall that when I got my diagnoses for these different things, it did kind of help for a season in my life. It helped me to feel like I could understand myself a bit more. But I'm kind of realizing that they're also kind of invalidating, gaslighting, and dismissive, and also blaming us for what we've been through. And yeah, I know there's different theories on different mental illnesses, such as chemical imbalances and all that stuff, and I don't know. I don't have all the answers. This is just things that I'm coming to conclusions of in my own life as I heal from my own trauma. And maybe there is some truths to that, and it kind of varies by person. That's very possible. I do think there is an aspect of genetics too, but my theory on that one has also been really wondering if it's, a DNA genetic thing as much as it's a generational trauma being passed down thing that's causing that, in my opinion. But I'm only one person, so you don't have to take my word for it, honestly. This is just different things that I've been thinking about. The more I evaluate not only myself, but the more I observe different people within the neurodivergent community that I'm a part of online, and the more they share their stories, their struggles, the more I'm like, this gives me a different perspective on things, because I'm seeing how much a lot of what they're describing is trauma responses that I have. And it's made me realize, oh, maybe there's an aspect to this that isn't really being looked at enough. Because a lot of the main people, unfortunately, are a part of the government and making the DSM-5 and all the different diagnostic labels that therapists use. So they are kind of, in a weird, subtle way, gaslighting people. That's just my thoughts there. You can take it or leave it, I guess. It's my theory on things, and in a way, I hope it does bring people to kind of rethink things a little bit. I'm not saying to dismiss people that have these disorders, and not encouraging people to dismiss them or their choosing identities there. But if it helps people to realize that they don't need to self-blame and self-sabotage and just self-destroy themselves, because a lot of the people in the neurodivergent communities I've been noticing, including myself, by the way, not just, other people, we are very, very much capable of self-blaming ourselves. We're very capable of taking on guilt and shame and blame way too easily. And we automatically assume it's our fault, and we did something wrong, and it can't possibly be somebody else, or, or someone doing something to us. We're always trying to fix ourselves and fix what we did, instead of also recognizing that maybe the people that are putting that guilt, putting that shame, putting that blame on us are the ones that need to do the fixing. A lot of neurodivergent people end up being scapegoated by family members or other abusers, and I kind of think a lot of the diagnoses that we're being given, yeah, maybe it explains things, but it also kind of dismisses things and blames us for a problem that is rooted in many cases, I'm not going to say all, but in many cases, trauma. Maybe it's not direct trauma, maybe it's generational trauma, ancestral trauma is very possible. I think it's really important that this be looked at more, because I think that's really going to release and free a lot of people of shame and blame and guilt and the constant fear of being in trouble and making mistakes and being wrong. I'm still working through a lot of that myself, to be honest. I even had a knee-jerk trigger reaction tonight where I almost had a panic attack because I was kind of looping and ruminating on a very minor thing, but it was just I think it was like a knee-jerk nervous system, reaction. I'm not really totally sure. To be honest, it kind of surprised me how intense it felt because of how minor it was. I even talked it through with my support system here and myself, within myself as well. And I've had worse reactions to, like, bigger things, but I've had similar reactions to bigger things, too. So, I'm still having those fear reactions of getting in trouble and stuff. I think a big thing is I think different parts of me are working through, we're working through setting up boundaries for, like, how much we share with people. And that's a huge foreign concept to my entire mind and body. Every part of me struggles with that because I was literally groomed to, like, never have boundaries. I wasn't allowed to have them. I was required to follow other people's boundaries, but I was never allowed to have them myself. And we're doing it in, like, small baby steps, like realizing, oh, hey, I don't need to share that personal struggle thing that I'm currently working through with somebody in full detail. Because it's okay for me to work through that privately with just me and Jesus. And that is a very foreign thing for me to do. Because I was not only groomed as this part of me to tell all to my abusers who were my handlers, but different parts of me were also used in a similar way and also required to share all information that we receive from others. I won't go into details there because I don't think it's time for me to do that, but so we're kind of, I guess, in a weird way, reprogramming our nervous system and our mind to work through and be okay with boundaries. And even though we're taking baby steps, it's still feeling very intense. And I think that's part of why I'm having intense anxiety and panic attacks. Thankfully, not constantly, but I'm thinking that's why it was so intense when I did get triggered this evening for a little while. So, yeah, it's just kind of interesting learning that and working through that. But I'm also just kind of realizing all these different dynamics within the neurodivergent community with mental health labels. I do actually have a social work degree, though I am not a licensed social worker in any way. I don't even know if I still could get that legally or not. I'm not really sure. It's been way too long since I had that. But because I have that background, I've been able to kind of evaluate what is the purpose of all these different mental health labels, as well as my own personal ones. And yeah, it's interesting to kind of come to these conclusions. And I think in some ways it's not only my own personal opinion, but I kind of wonder if these are different spiritual revelations myself. I don't know. It could be from Jesus, could be just my own personal thoughts. I guess we'll just all have to discern that out together over time. Yeah. So, yeah, this part of me, I came forward today, and I think part of it was because different parts of me were wrestling through the boundary thing, I think, and needed extra support, and I think they kind of wanted me to show up and I guess double check that we're okay and safe to have boundaries. And so far, I've concluded with my support system that it's okay, and that helped. I also wonder if I was encouraged to be brought forward because we're going to be getting some rain the next few days, and I know that is a strong trigger for several parts of me. For other really strange and maybe not strange memories that we have involving water, because we have rain barrels around the house to collect the rainwater, and it makes some very interesting noises sometimes, which sometimes induces panic attacks. And yeah, we're trying to figure out how to set up the rain barrel system around the house so that it's not triggering to me at all. So hopefully, before the rainy season fully goes underway, we can figure that one out. And I'd also would love to kind of figure out, or I guess work through, that trigger a bit more so that we can enjoy rain more, because for the most part, I've enjoyed rain in this part of me and found it to be relaxing, but because there are memories connected to water and whatever water sounds related to the rain do stir up deep memories for a few parts of me, it's unfortunately become less enjoyable. So, but I guess that's could be partially why I'm forward right now, is because I can handle it and it doesn't trigger me as much. I can still somewhat feel the emotional undercurrent of my other parts, but those parts of me that have the rain and water triggers aren't as connected to me as other parts right now. So, yeah. And I don't know if I've mentioned it in other videos, I do not have control over when this part of me or other parts of me are forward. We just kind of wake up and whatever part is forward is forward. I actually believe that Jesus is the one that brings different parts of us forward when we're supposed to be forward, so we can work through different things, so that each part of us can heal and, deal with what we need to deal with. Oh, hey, we're starting to get tired. Sounds like number 2 might be finally ready for sleep. Great. I'm pretty sure if I had the physical, healthy body that we are striving to get to have, if it was up to number 2, we'd be bouncing off the walls. I know that it's like one of the goals of some of my other parts to get healthy enough to jump on the bed. We're not there yet because we have a lot of health issues that do not allow us to be able to do that yet. But that's one of the goals. And I am pretty sure number 2 is fully in support of that as well. So it's amazing because when she comes forward and she brings the energy, and it's like, I feel like I want to do a lot of things, but I also know that my body can't physically handle it yet because we are not healthy enough, and the energy is not matching our physical abilities. I do try to direct it where I can to, get things done when I can, as well as in other ways, such as doing physical therapy that will help us to get stronger so that we can eventually utilize that burst of energy in the fun ways that we would like to do, or in just other ways that we'd like to do as well, without having major health repercussions. So, but I'll talk about all that stuff in another video, probably. I'm starting to get tired again, so I'll probably start winding down for the night, finally. But anyways, I'll probably post this video out there unedited because, well, that's what we're going to try and do. Feel free to comment and give feedback on unedited videos. I'm going to just, I guess, encourage people to be aware of them being unedited, and I guess just, if you are willing to listen anyway, try not to stress about the ums or the coughs or the pauses and the awkwardness that is me. I am human, and so I'm not gonna be a perfectly edited person. I'm not going to be an AI thing that, but I don't know. So, enjoy the mess of me, if you want. Feel free to come back for other videos, do the whole like and subscribe thing if you want. You are welcome to share my videos as well, and that's perfectly fine as well. So, I guess I will just say good night or good morning if you're watching this in the morning. And we'll see you in the next video. Bye! Okay, I guess that didn't want to work.